The Sith. Are they truly evil, or is their philosophy a twisted path to a different kind of good? It's easy to dismiss them as mustache-twirling villains, cackling, lightning-wielding tyrants who thrive on chaos and suffering. We see Darth Vader strangle imperial officers for failure, Darth Sidious dissolve the Senate to crown himself emperor, and Darth Maul carve a path of destruction across Tatooine. But to reduce the Sith to mere evil is to ignore the seductive logic at the heart of their worldview. A philosophy built not on random cruelty, but on principles of self-mastery, ambition, and rejection of what they see as the Jedi's suffocating hypocrisy. In a galaxy where the good Jedi Order turned a blind eye to Republic corruption, where peacekeepers became generals, and where emotion was labeled a weakness, the Sith offered a radical alternative. Embrace your desires, master your power, and shape the galaxy to your will. This is not to justify their crimes, but to confront an uncomfortable paradox. Could the Sith's darkness be a distorted reflection of a genuine longing for freedom? Freedom from the Jedi's rigid dogma? Freedom from the galaxy's endless compromises? Freedom to be fully human? To answer that, we must look beyond the lightning and the red lightsabers and into the ideas that have lured so many promising beings, Jedi, senators, even heroes, into the dark side. Let's start with the core of Sith philosophy, self-mastery. The Jedi teach that the Force is a binding, unifying energy to be served, not controlled. Yoda tells Luke Skywalker in The Empire Strikes Back, "Do or do not. There is no try," framing the Force as a partner that requires humility. The Sith reject this outright. For them, the Force is a tool to be mastered, a source of power that flows from within, from passion, from anger, from the very emotions the Jedi demand be suppressed. Darth Sidious, in Revenge of the Sith, explains it to Anakin. The dark side is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural. It is not about serving the Force. It is about making the Force serve you. This idea is not inherently evil. It's a rejection of passivity. Think of Anakin Skywalker, a slave boy from Tatooine who learned early that humility and patience get you nothing. As a slave, he watched his mother suffer, powerless to help, until he won his freedom with a pod race, using skill and ambition, not Jedi calm. The Sith's promise of self-mastery spoke to that part of him. Why accept powerlessness when you can seize control? When the Jedi told him to let go of his fear for Padme, the Sith told him to use that fear, to turn it into the power to save her. Anakin's fall was not a choice to be evil. It was a choice to reject the Jedi's acceptance of loss, to cling to the only philosophy that promised he could protect the ones he loved. That is the Sith's first temptation. They validate the anger and fear we all feel when the world fails us and offer a way to turn that pain into strength. Then there is the Sith's reverence for ambition, a trait the Jedi dismiss as a path to greed. The Jedi Order is a hierarchy built on obedience. Padawans follow masters, masters follow the council, and no one questions the status quo. To aspire to more, to challenge the council, to seek greater power is labeled arrogance. The Sith, by contrast, see ambition as the engine of progress. Darth Bane, the Sith Lord who established the rule of two, one master, one apprentice, to end Sith infighting, wrote in his Rule of Two manifesto, "Ambition is not a sin. It is the fire that drives evolution." The Jedi fear it because it threatens their control. They want a galaxy of sheep, not wolves. Bane's logic is cold but consistent. The galaxy is a cruel place, and only the strong deserve to lead. Consider Dooku, once a Jedi master revered for his wisdom. He left the Jedi Order not because he loved evil, but because he hated the Republic's corruption. Senators taking bribes, Jedi ignoring slave labor on Outer Rim worlds, the Order turning a blind eye to injustice in the name of peace. The Sith offered him a way to act, to burn down the corrupt system and build something new. In The Clone Wars Season 2, Dooku tells Obi-Wan, "I am not a tyrant. I am a revolutionary. The Republic is dying, and I will be the one to bury it." Was Dooku evil? Or was he an idealist who chose the wrong tools? His ambition was not to rule for power's sake, but to save the galaxy from itself. A goal he shared with the Jedi, but by means they refused to accept. The Sith's genius lies in this. They take noble aspirations, justice, protection, progress, and twist them into justifications for cruelty. They don't ask you to abandon your ideals, they ask you to abandon your moral limits. The Sith also exploit a critical flaw in the Jedi's moral framework, their denial of emotion. The Jedi teach that love, anger, and grief are dangers to be suppressed. Anakin is told to hide his love for Padme. Ahsoka is scolded for feeling anger at the Jedi Council's betrayal. Even Obi-Wan is urged to let go of his grief for Qui-Gon Jinn. The Sith say this is a lie. Emotion is not a weakness. It is what makes us alive. Darth Vader, in Return of the Jedi, is not redeemed by rejecting his emotions, but by embracing them. His love for Luke is the force that breaks the Emperor's hold on him. The Sith's philosophy here is almost humanist. They argue that the Jedi's quest for detachment turns them into cold, unfeeling beings who care more about rules than people. In the Clone Wars Season 6, when Fives begs the Jedi Council to investigate the inhibitor chips in clones, Master Yoda dismisses him with, "Fear is your ally, young clone. Let it not cloud your judgment." But Fives is not motivated by fear. He's motivated by love for his brothers, by a desire to protect them from a trap. The Jedi's refusal to acknowledge that emotion blinds them to the truth. The Sith, by contrast, would have listened to Fives, not out of kindness, but because his anger and love were sources of motivation. They understand that emotion is a weapon, and the Jedi's refusal to wield it makes them vulnerable. This is the Sith's most seductive lie, that morality is a cage and freedom lies in breaking it. But here's the paradox. The Sith's philosophy, for all its surface appeal, contains a fatal flaw. Power corrupts, and the very traits they celebrate, self-mastery, ambition, emotion, eventually consume them. Anakin Skywalker starts by wanting to save Padme, but ends up choking her in a fit of rage. Dooku starts by wanting to end Republic corruption, but ends up leading a droid army that slaughters innocent civilians. Darth Bane starts by wanting to save the Sith from themselves, but ends up killing his own apprentice to maintain control. The Sith's mistake is believing that power can be used only for good, that they can wield anger without being consumed by it, that they can chase ambition without becoming greedy, that they can master the Force without it mastering them. This is the lie at the heart of their worldview. They see themselves as exceptions to the rule, as strong enough to handle the dark side's temptation. But no one is. The dark side is not a tool, it is a poison. It starts with small compromises, lying to protect a secret, killing one evil person to save many, bending the rules just once. But each compromise makes the next easier, until the line between good and evil disappears. Anakin doesn't wake up one day deciding to be Darth Vader. He slides into it, one small choice at a time, each choice justified by the Sith's philosophy that the end justifies the means. To understand the Sith, we must also confront the galaxy that created them. The Republic is not a utopia. It is a corrupt, bloated bureaucracy, where senators line their pockets while Outer Rim worlds starve. The Jedi Order, for all its good intentions, is a rigid, arrogant institution that values tradition over justice. The Sith are not just villains, they are a reaction to that failure. They thrive in the gaps between the Jedi's hypocrisy and the Republic's cruelty. When the Jedi tell a slave boy from Tatooine to be patient, the Sith tell him to fight. When the Republic ignores the Senator's pleas for help, the Sith offer her power to take what she needs. The Sith's philosophy is seductive because it answers a real question. What do you do when the good guys fail you? For many beings in the Star Wars galaxy, slaves, outcasts, victims of injustice, the Sith are not a choice of evil over good. They are a choice of action over inaction. But this does not make the Sith good. It makes them tragic. They are idealists who have lost their way, visionaries who have become blind to their own cruelty. Dooku never realizes that the empire he helps build is far more corrupt than the Republic he hated. Anakin never sees that the power he seeks to save Padme is the very thing that kills her. The Sith's paradox is that they fight for a different kind of good, but their methods ensure that good never comes. They destroy the corrupt system only to replace it with something worse. They seek to protect the ones they love, only to lose them. They chase freedom only to become prisoners of their own anger. In the end, the Sith's philosophy is a trap. It promises self-mastery but delivers self-destruction. It promises progress but delivers chaos. It promises freedom but delivers slavery to the dark side, to their own ambition, to the very pain they sought to escape. But the fact that we can debate their morality, that we can see the logic in their choices, that we can understand why someone would be lured to them, is what makes the Star Wars universe so compelling. It is not a story of black and white, but of gray. The Sith are not mustache-twirling villains. They are human or alien beings, driven by the same hopes and fears we all have. Hopes of protecting our loved ones, fears of powerlessness, desires to make the world a better place. The difference is that they chose to walk a path where the ends justify the means, and in doing so, they lost themselves. So, are the Sith truly evil? Yes, but not because they were born that way. They are evil because they made a choice to let their pain turn to anger, their anger to hate, and their hate to suffering. But the paradox remains. In a galaxy that is often unjust, in a world where the good guys so often fail, can we blame them for choosing a different path? The answer, I think, is no, but we can mourn them. We can mourn the Jedi they might have been, the leaders they could have become, the good they might have done if they had not let their darkness consume them. The Sith are a warning, not just of the danger of evil, but of the danger of letting our good intentions lead us down the wrong path. In a galaxy far, far away, and in our own, that is a lesson we all need to hear. The paradox of the Sith, whether their darkness masks a twisted good, cannot be untangled if we cling to the simplistic label of evil. For decades, Star Wars lore has framed them as the galaxy's ultimate villains, their red lightsabers and force lightning serving as visual shorthand for cruelty. But this view erases the ideological backbone of the Sith, reducing their philosophy to mere villainy instead of engaging with the ideas that have lured countless beings away from the Jedi. To dismiss the Sith as pure evil is to ignore an uncomfortable truth. Many of their core principles, stripped of their darkest excesses, echo human desires we all recognize, desires for purpose, agency, and freedom from constraint. The Jedi ask us to suppress our passions. The Sith ask us to embrace them. The Jedi urge humility. The Sith demand ambition. The Jedi frame power as a responsibility to serve. The Sith frame it as a right to control. These are not evil ideas. They are radical alternatives to the Jedi's status quo. The danger lies not in the ideas themselves, but in how the Sith take them to extremes. To understand this, we must turn to the Sith Code, the foundational text that guides every Lord of the Sith, a manifesto that distills their worldview into 6 unflinching lines. Peace is a lie. There is only passion. Through passion, I gain strength. Through strength, I gain power. Through power, I gain victory. Through victory, my chains are broken. Freedom is the force. This code is not a call for random violence. It is a roadmap for self-actualization, built on principles that, at first glance, seem almost noble. Take the first line, peace is a lie, there is only passion. The Sith reject the Jedi's reverence for peace, not because they love war, but because they see peace as stagnation. For them, peace is a veil the Republic uses to hide corruption senators, profiting while Outer Rim worlds starve, Jedi ignoring slavery while preaching harmony. Passion, by contrast, is life, the fire that drives a slave to fight for freedom, a parent to protect their child, a revolutionary to challenge injustice. Anakin Skywalker's initial passion was not anger. It was love for Padme, fear of losing her. The Sith did not create that passion, they validated it, telling him it was not a weakness to be suppressed, but a strength to be wielded. From passion, the code moves to strength. Through passion, I gain strength. Here, the Sith draw a direct line between emotion and capability. The Jedi teach that emotion clouds judgment, But the Sith argue it sharpens focus. Darth Bane, the architect of the Rule of Two, wrote in his journals that a Jedi fights with half a heart, holding back their fear and anger. A Sith fights with their whole being, every emotion fueling their strike. This is not an empty boast. During the Battle of Naboo, Darth Maul's passion, his hunger to prove himself to Sidious, let him hold his own against two Jedi Masters, Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi, a feat few could match. The strength the Sith seek is not just physical or force-based, it is mental. The resolve to keep fighting when the Jedi would retreat, to keep striving when the galaxy says no. Strength becomes power. Through strength, I gain power. For the Sith, power is not a means to an end. It is the end itself, but not in the way we often assume. They do not crave power for tyranny, they crave it for agency. Dooku Count left the Jedi Order because he saw power in the hands of corrupt senators and complacent masters. The Sith gave him power to challenge that system, to build a separatist army that could topple the Republic. Power is not about ruling others, Dooku told Anakin in Attack of the Clones. It is about never being powerless again. This is a sentiment many can relate to. Who among us has not felt powerless in the face of injustice, wishing for the strength to change things? The Sith's mistake is not in seeking power, but in believing power has no limits, that the ends always justify the means. Power leads to victory. Through power, I gain victory. Victory for the Sith is not just winning battles. It is overcoming any obstacle that stands in their way, whether it is a Jedi Master, a corrupt senator, or their own self-doubt. For Darth Vader, victory was escaping the ashes of Mustafar, rebuilding himself as a cyborg, and becoming the Empire's enforcer. For Sidious, victory was dissolving the Senate, ending the Clone Wars, and ruling the galaxy unchallenged. But victory, for the Sith, is a double-edged sword. It breaks their chains. Through victory, my chains are broken, but often replaces old chains with new ones. Vader broke free of the Jedi's control, only to become a slave to Sidious's will. Sidious broke free of the Republic's constraints, only to become a prisoner of his own paranoia. The code ends with, "Freedom is the Force," a declaration that the ultimate freedom is mastery of the Force, and through it, mastery of one's destiny. This is the Sith's most seductive promise. You are not bound by the Jedi's rules, the Republic's laws, or the galaxy's expectations. You are free to be whoever you want, to take whatever you want, to shape the world as you see fit. It is a promise of radical individualism, one that resonates with anyone who has ever felt confined by authority. Which brings us to the central question: can an ideology built on passion, strength, power, victory, and freedom ever be good? The answer depends on where you draw the line between principle and excess. Passion, in moderation, is what drives us to love, to create, to fight for justice. Strength is what lets us protect the ones we care about. Power, used responsibly, is what lets us fix broken systems. Victory is what lets us overcome oppression. Freedom is what makes life worth living. The Sith do not reject these values. They amplify them to the point of destruction. They take passion and turn it into anger, strength into brutality, power into tyranny, victory into conquest, freedom into selfishness. The Sith code is not inherently evil. It is a perversion of good ideas, twisted by the Sith's refusal to acknowledge empathy, compassion, and moral constraint. A good version of the Sith ideology, one that embraces passion without anger, strength without cruelty, power without tyranny, could, in theory, exist. But in practice, the Sith's obsession with individual power makes this impossible. They see the galaxy as a zero-sum game. For one to win, another must lose. The Jedi see it as a community, where everyone's freedom matters. The Sith are not evil because their principles are evil. They are evil because they take good principles and corrupt them in the name of self-interest. They prove that even the most noble ideas, passion, strength, freedom, can become weapons if stripped of empathy. In the end, the Sith's ideology is not a different kind of good. It is a warning that the line between virtue and vice is thin, and that the same fire that warms us can also burn the galaxy down. The Sith's ideology, for all its corruption, does not spread through fear alone. It spreads through resonance, preying on the quiet, unmet needs of beings who feel the galaxy has failed them. To understand why someone would embrace the dark side, we must look beyond the lightning and the red lightsabers and into the psychological void the Sith fill, the hunger for agency in a world that strips it away, the rage at injustice that the good guys ignore, and the desperate desire to never again be powerless. This is not the allure of evil, it is the allure of being seen, and it is why so many who start as victims end up as villains. For those trapped in oppression, the Sith's philosophy is a lifeline. Consider Anakin Skywalker, a slave boy from Tatooine who spent his childhood watching his mother suffer, his own freedom dictated by a slaver's whims. The Jedi freed him, but they never truly understood his pain. They told him to let go of his anger at slavery, to detach from his love for Shmi, to see his trauma as a distraction from the Force. The Sith, by contrast, validated that anger. Palpatine, posing as a kind mentor, whispered to Anakin that his rage was not a weakness. It was a weapon. Your mother's death was not a tragedy, Palpatine says in Revenge of the Sith, his voice soft with manipulation. It was a lesson. It taught you that power is the only thing that can protect the ones you love. For Anakin, this was a revelation. The Jedi asked him to accept powerlessness, but the Sith asked him to seize control. This is the dark side's first, most potent lure. It speaks to the pain no one else will acknowledge. It does not ask you to forget your suffering, it asks you to use it. This promise of control evolves into a vision of personal liberation, one that feels revolutionary to those trapped by the Jedi's dogma or the Republic's corruption. Count Dooku, once a Jedi master revered for his wisdom, left the Order not because he craved tyranny, but because he hated the Jedi's complacency. He watched as senators took bribes to ignore slave labor on Zygeria, as Jedi generals ordered clone troopers to die for meaningless objectives, as the Council dismissed his warnings about Republic decay. The Sith offered him a way to act, to build an army that could topple the corrupt system, to burn down the old order and build something new. In the Clone Wars Season 2, Dooku tells Obi-Wan, "The Jedi have become pawns of the Republic, pawns of greed and fear. I am not a Sith. I am a liberator." This is not a lie. Not entirely. Dooku believed he was fighting for a better galaxy. The Sith's genius is in framing liberation as inseparable from power. You cannot free the galaxy, they argue, unless you first master the Force and the people that control it. For Dooku, this meant leading a droid army. For Anakin, it meant learning the dark side's power to cheat death. Both saw themselves as liberators, not oppressors, and that is what makes the dark side so seductive. It turns your desires for good into justifications for darkness. At the heart of this lure lies the Sith's most dangerous mantra: power at any cost. It is not just a quest for strength. It is a rejection of moral limits, a belief that the right goal makes any means acceptable. Anakin's descent is a masterclass in this logic. He starts by lying to the Jedi Council about his marriage to Padme, a small compromise, he tells himself, to protect her, then agrees to spy on Palpatine to save the Order, then kills Count Dooku to end the war faster, then slaughters the Separatist leaders on Mustafar to prevent more bloodshed, and finally pledges himself to Palpatine to learn the power to save Padme. Each step is justified by a greater good. Each compromise makes the next easier. The Sith do not force these choices. They normalize them. Palpatine never tells Anakin to be evil. He tells him, sometimes to do what is right, you must break the rules. This is the dark side's psychological trick. It redefines right as what serves your goal, turning morality into a flexible tool instead of a guiding principle. For beings like the Zygerian slave queen Mirage Sintel from the Clone Wars Season 4, this logic is even more seductive. Mirage, herself a former slave, built an empire on capturing and selling other beings. She justified it by telling herself, "I was once powerless. Now I control who is free and who is not." This is justice. The Sith did not create her trauma, but they validated her response to it. They told her that her cruelty was a form of strength, that her greed was a form of freedom. She is not an exception, she is a pattern. The dark side does not target evil people. It targets hurt people. People who have been let down by the galaxy's supposed good institutions. People who are desperate enough to believe that power is the only cure for pain. To understand the Sith's motivation is not to excuse their crimes. It is to recognize that evil rarely starts as evil. It starts as a response to suffering. Anakin did not wake up wanting to be Darth Vader. He woke up wanting to protect his wife. Dooku did not set out to lead a droid army. He set out to fix a broken republic. The Sith's tragedy is that they take genuine pain and twist it into a path of destruction. They promise liberation, but deliver slavery to anger, to greed, to the very power they claim to master. The dark side's lure is not about choosing evil. It is about choosing the easy way to fix what hurts. It is about believing that you are strong enough to control the darkness instead of letting it control you. And, as Anakin Skywalker learned, that is a lie. But for those who feel the galaxy has left them with no other choice, it is a lie worth believing until it is too late.